What is up, my good people? This is Fight Me Bro MMA, and I'm here with C Pete, and we're going to be doing our fight predictions for Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. Firstly, I'm going to have to consider the fact that Figgy might be a little older, but I think he's still got something left in the tank. He just won his last fight, and I wouldn't call it a robbery per se, but I did think that Montel Jackson was the rightful winner, but I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me there. I even made a whole breakdown of the fight on YouTube. I counted significant strikes. You can go check that out. But needless to say, it was a very competitive fight. And Figgy was the one landing the better shots. I think he's very powerful, and that could potentially be Umar's kryptonite because he's been dropped in quite a few fights, or at least hurt, like when he went up against Bezkat Almakhan, as well as Merab Dvalishvili. You could attribute that to fatigue, but Almakhan dropped him in the first round. And knowing that he's going up against a power puncher like Figgy, who's potentially even better than Almakhan right now at his old age, that might come into play. But the question is, will Umar be able to take down Figgy and control him for extended periods? Personally, I think yes. Umar might have lost against Merab, but guys, we have to look back at those first two rounds. He was able to out wrestle Merab, and I just didn't believe that was going to happen because I made a prediction video and I thought Merab was going to win, which he did win, but I didn't expect Umar to have the success that he did have in the first two rounds. Some people say they could attribute Merab's performance to his cardio, which I feel like that's not the best way to do it. That's overlooking his actual skill, but there definitely is an argument there because from the third round going onwards, Umar wasn't able to wrestle at the same pace as Merab. So knowing that he can do that to Merab in the first two rounds means he can probably do it very well against someone who won't have the same tools as Merab. And we saw that when he went up against Corey Sandhagen. Again, I felt like the fight was a little more competitive than people made it out to be, but still, Umar had a pretty dominant performance. He won it on every judge's scorecard. It wasn't contested at all. And when it comes to Figgy, let's look back at his performance against Peter Yan. Peter Yan is probably the best bantamweight in the division, but I still think his performance against Peter Yan is underwhelming considering who he's going up against in Umar Nurmagomedov because yes, he was able to drop Peter Yan, but aside from that, it was pretty much a Peter Yan masterclass. And in the grappling exchanges, they both landed trips on each other, but I thought Peter Yan was going to be able to land them more frequently. But I think that's just the courtesy of Davison Figueiredo's good takedown defense. But I believe that Umar is going to be able to take down and control Figgy for the entire fight. He's probably not going to be able to submit him because I just don't think that's a weapon he has in his arsenal. But looking back at his fight against the guy who beat Patchy Mix, Mario Bautista, for some reason I forgot his name, but clearly he's not below Muhammad, so that shouldn't be happening. But yeah, he got dropped in that fight as well, and I was shocked. I truly was. I did not expect Mario Bautista of all people to be the one to drop Umar Nurmagomedov, but hey, MMA is full of surprises. But aside from that, man, he was able to ragdoll him for pretty much the majority of the fight. But when things were kept on the feet, he just didn't look that comfortable at all. It felt like if he wasn't gonna be able to take down Mario, Mario was gonna piece him up, or at least maybe even get a knockout. And that's something that I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't seen the fight. But like I said before, MMA is full of surprises. So the best way that Davison Figueiredo can win this fight is through just having a puncher's chance because, man, he dropped Peter Yan, he dropped Marlon, and I think Umar is susceptible to that as well. But what do you think, man?
Man, it's interesting because it's like you don't really know what version of Davison Figueiredo that we're actually going to get. He's getting older every fight, of course. And I think the thing about Figueiredo at bantamweight is that, you know, certain guys he can be physically imposing against and kind of just, drag him to the ground, use his wrestling, like you're saying. Like he's got the power punching. He knocked down Jan, he knocked down Chito Vera. But I think the thing is, Umar's got the superior wrestling. So, like you said, I think more than likely we're going to see Umar getting constant takedowns, controlling the back, probably, fishing for submissions. Probably not going to get one, like you said, because Figueiredo is very competent on the ground. He's got good submission defense as well. But, it would be interesting to see if it's a stalemate in the wrestling, if these two just stand and bang. I would really like to see what would happen with that because Umar's got great kicking. He's got good straight punches down the middle, but Figueiredo's got the power advantage with a lot of these guys. And if he's using it, I could even see where he's using a ton of his effort in the wrestling. Maybe Figgy stops the takedown, and he might get uncomfortable on the feet. But I think even I could say, if he puts up a impressive performance, I mean, I don't see why he doesn't deserve another title shot. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Umar versus Peter Yan? Who wouldn't want to see Umar versus Marab if Marab gets the belt back? Could definitely be a trilogy for all we know. I mean, there's even an argument to be made that Umar won that Marab fight. I mean, I'm not the one making that argument, but I think it's out there to be said. That fifth round was close. And even the third round was close as well. And I think he definitely won the first two rounds. And yeah, I mean, he was taking Marab down. I mean, Marab's shown a little bit of susceptibility to getting taken down in his last couple fights. Peter was kind of ragged on him in the last fight, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know, man. I definitely would go Umar. I think it's likely going to be a 30-27 decision. Like I think that's very likely to happen. But I would really like to see Umar test himself, fish for a submission. I think he's got it. He's got good submissions. I know he's a young guy, he's still coming into his own. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about this fight. I'm not seeing a way that Figueiredo wins it personally. I mean, he could. It's MMA. He could clip him and drop him, but it's really the only way I see Davison winning this fight. To be honest with you.
So there you have it, guys. That's our predictions for Umar versus Davison. So let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe on both of our platforms.